everybody. My name is Polly. This is my amazing sister, Dixie, and we're going to first start with a number. I have a voice, started out as a whisper, turned into a scream, made a beautiful noise, shoulder to shoulder marching in the street. When you're all alone, it's a quiet breeze, but when you band together, it's a quiet thundery rain. Now we have a choice, 'cause I have a voice. I'm not living to die. Don't stand in a wasteland, look at me in the eye. Stop living a lie and stand up next to me. You gotta put one foot in front of the other, with a hand in a hand, holding on to each other. Go on and rejoice, 'cause you have a voice. It is loud, it is clear, it is stronger than your fear. It's believing you belong, it's for calling out the wrong. From the silence of my sisters to the violence of my brothers, we can rage against the river for the pain of another. I have a voice. I have a voice, and I let it speak for the ones who aren't yet really free. It's killing me. No one is saying what we need to hear. I will not let silence win when I see all the pain all people are in. There's no other choice, 'cause I have a voice. It is loud, it is clear, it is stronger than your fear. It's believing you belong, it's for calling out the wrong. From the mouths of our mothers to the lips of our daughters, we can dream like our brothers, speaking loud like our fathers. We can heal. Can you hear us? Can you hear us now? Started out as a whisper, turned into a scream, made a beautiful noise, shoulder to shoulder marching in the street. When you're all alone, it's a quiet breeze, but when you band together, it's a quiet thundery rain. Now we have a choice, 'cause you have a choice. I am feeling super emotional today. I'm surprised I got through that song. I have to give a big shout out to my sister Dixie. She has been a huge, yes. She has been a huge support to me throughout my journey. She is a member of the church, and she has never shunned. She has shown empathy. She is everything that the church should be, is my sister. So I just want to say She's amazing. And I feel so honored to be here. I was telling my sister that I felt, what's the word, where you feel like, am I even worthy of this? Like, I'm not a therapist. I'm not, there's so many things that I'm not, but there's also so many things that I am. And there's one thing the church taught me was not to listen to those voices telling me I'm not good enough or telling me I am not worthy, because I know I am worthy, I know I am good enough, and I know all of you are too. So I'm so happy to be here. A little bit about my background. I grew up in the church. I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and I'm not going to do my whole Mormon story here, but I will say I went through a lot of trauma growing up in the church. I'm bisexual, and learning what I did about what that meant to be me in the church was really harmful to me. Suicide thoughts, self-harm, purity culture, scrupulosity, really just trying to fit myself into this mold, trying to be the perfect person for God. And in return, I abandoned myself. And so this journey back to home for me has been super special. I married someone who joined the church after we started dating. I had bishops want to tear us apart. It's a huge part of my story. I got pregnant when I wasn't married. I was 27, and the bishop at the time told me to pray about giving my daughter up for adoption. I was not treated with dignity. I was treated like I was a 14-year-old, and I was a 27-year-old who deserved to be treated better. And for a church who was all about families, they really tried to tear apart mine. And I stand here today with my spouse, who's amazing. We've been together 10 years with our daughter, who they could not take away from us. And family is everything to me. So I'm very, very grateful that I did not let the church tear mine apart. I still believed in the church. Throughout all of the trauma that I went through, I really tried so hard to please God. And once I realized the church wasn't true, and that was a huge trauma of its own, as I'm sure you all know, it also began the healing process for me of so many years of trauma due to the church. So today I want to talk specifically about 2 things that have helped me. One is learning to trust my intuition, learning to trust myself, and the other is reclaiming my voice, and which is why I chose that song today. So, in the church, I had received the messaging, hold to the rod, listen to the still small voice, read your scriptures, pray, keep the commandments. God will answer your prayers. One of the quotes we've all heard over and over again, doubt your doubts before you doubt your faith. That I had hanging in my room. I made this big poster with that quote for my husband at the time, who did not believe in the church. I was really trying to get him there. And I realized how damaging that is, that we are told to doubt our intuition. We are told to outsource what we should do and look to other people instead of looking into ourselves. And so self-doubt can be very tricky, but I now can see the answers have always been within me, and they are within all of us. If you struggle with any form of anxiety like I do, it can be even harder. You might be afraid to make a wrong decision. What ifs might creep into your mind. Self-doubt creeps in. I remember specifically when I experienced a lot of dark nights of the soul, like we had kind of talked about in this meditation. And I remember praying over and over and over again. I had already suffered through so much, and I had just learned about some hard truths of the church, and I did not know what to do. Do I leave? Do I stay? I was terrified to make a decision, terrified to leave. What if that means I lose my family forever? That really was the hardest thing for me. And I remember literally being curled up in a ball on my bathroom floor, on my couch, holding my daughter at the time she was 3, and being so scared, like, God, please don't take my baby. Please don't separate us from in this next life. And I journaled about that. And part of what I said in my journal was, I'm scared that I'm making a wrong decision, and I'm going to lose my family forever. I don't want to lose them. This is so hard. And I look back at that and see the lies told to hold us hostage, threatening us that we would lose our families if we left the church. I can now see this as a tactic that high-demand religions and cults do to keep us in. It takes so much bravery to step away. If you have just recently left the church, or you're currently struggling with your own dark night of the soul, you are not alone. You are so brave. It takes bravery to think for yourself. It takes bravery to make a decision. We make hundreds, if not thousands, of decisions every single day. Perfectionism, being afraid to make a wrong decision, freezing, anxiety, inaction, it all can make it difficult to listen and follow through with what your soul is telling you. My sister told me a quote that actually helped her make the decision to go on a mission. She doesn't mind that I'm sharing this. Our dad has cancer, and so for her to make that decision a few years ago was very tough. And she was speaking in state conference, and we always support each other. And at the time I was believing, but she didn't want us to go to state conference to hear her speak, so I stayed in the foyer. She didn't know that. And I remember her saying this quote, "What would you do if you weren't afraid?" I'm going to repeat that again. What would you do if you weren't afraid? That quote has changed my life in such great ways. I believe the answers are inside of me. I've been reading studies about intuition, and it really is phenomenal, the science behind it. Whether you still believe in a form of God, or the Spirit, or none of that at all, your intuition is a power from within you. Some things that have helped me to listen and to trust myself. I pay attention to how my body is feeling. Am I feeling expansive? Am I feeling kind of closed up? What is that feeling? I journal. I write down what I'm thinking. Getting my thoughts out of my head and onto paper helps me so that I can see them. And if you're in your head, this helps get out of that thought loop. Sometimes, especially with anxiety, you kind of play things over in your head. So getting it on paper can really help. Journal prompts that have helped me. What's holding me back from making a decision? What is this fear? How would I feel if I made decision A, decision B? How would I feel if I left the church, or maybe put 10% to a nonprofit that I believe in instead of paying my tithing currently, or just having a hard conversation with a loved one? If failure was not an option, what decision would I make? And again, the question that really has helped me is, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? I spend time in nature. I love living in nature. I live by the mountains and I thrive, and it just has helped me heal so much. So finding for you what helps you. And have a conversation with your future self. Think of yourself out of coffee, looking at your future self 5 years, 10 years down the road across that table from you. What would that person say to you? And I also like to think about 5 years ago, how much I've grown, and how much younger Polly, teenage Polly, would be so proud of who I am today. And I think that goes for all of us. And lastly, therapy. Finding the right trauma-informed therapist can help you gain the tools you need to heal and to trust yourself. You are worth it. Throughout your journey, you may have people try to push their thoughts and beliefs onto you. You do not have to take on someone else's beliefs, as you also don't need to push your new beliefs onto other people. You get to listen to what you feel. You get to choose. You have that authority over your own life. I heard this quote from a song that says, "My intuition said what she said, and I trust her now." And I absolutely love that. So now to reclaiming our voices. This is where we get to take back our power. We get to step into it. We get to take authority over our own lives. One of the ways we may erase ourselves is not speaking the truth about what we feel, need, or want, especially in the context of leaving the church. This can be deep abandonment of ourselves. Growing up in the church, I felt like I had to bury a lot of my true feelings, views, beliefs, and I couldn't express how I truly felt. Our fear of what others think, the church, being shunned, not being accepted, it can all cause us to erase ourselves. The more we heal and truly come to self, the more we speak up, and the more we stop silencing ourselves. We start seeing the injustices in the world, in the church, in our lives, and we start seeing how our voices matter. Leaving the church became the start of advocacy work for me and a road to being an activist. It began with me first advocating for myself. It began first with me not allowing people to mistreat me, for me to actually see my worth. It can feel so scary to speak up, especially when we've been told to silence ourselves, when we've been told to be peacemakers. That is a hurdle that's so hard. It's so hard because being peacemakers is always the thing that I felt like I wanted to try to be. But I have my own personality, I have my own thoughts. So how do I speak my truth? How do I be an activist? And the truth is, once you begin to value who you are, you begin to see the power in your voice. Being willing to speak up, being willing to speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. I made a promise to myself that I will never abandon myself ever again. I know that some people will like me and some won't, but I'm not willing to sacrifice my peace to be liked or to be a people pleaser. I know this doesn't come overnight. It's taken me a long time, and I still have work to do. Here's another plug, though, for a trauma-informed therapist, because they can help you in that journey to self-love and self-trust and reclaiming your voice. One of the things I found is being passive, I think, kind of comes with the territory of being Mormon. It can be hard to, you just roll with those punches, you believe what everyone believes. And sometimes, truly, I think a lot of us truly believed it ourselves. And so if you feel like you're claiming your voice for the first time, claiming your voice away from what your family feels or what they believe, it is so possible. Owning your voice, reclaiming, rediscovering our voices, it's all within our reach. Many of us may describe our relationship with the church as an emotionally abusive relationship. A tactic of emotional abusers is to manipulate you so that you're punished if you ever speak up. That is a strategy to keep you quiet. The church works that way. Dr. Thema from Homecoming Project said it best when she said, "We want to be mindful that peace at the cost of your voice, needs, and feelings is not authentic peace. It is just silent. There is a difference between peace and just being silent." You may be a believer in the church and still attending. Maybe you are wanting to make it a safer place. Maybe you are no longer a believer but in a mixed faith marriage. Maybe you go because you long for that community. No matter where you are on your journey, I hope you know that your voice matters and you can make a difference. Your individual circumstances might be such that speaking out right now is not possible, and that's okay, because your safety also matters. For those of you who are in a place where you feel you can't speak up, maybe you'll have an opportunity to speak up for someone who's LGBTQ, or maybe speak out about harmful racist policies or doctrines, or maybe your way of reclaiming your voice is talking one-on-one with someone who's feeling alone. There is no one right way, and there is no wrong way. If there's one thing I know, it's that no one should be judged for the path that they are on. Raising your voice can come in many different ways, in and outside of the church. Maybe you want to run for office. Maybe raising your voice and promoting change in politics is your way. Maybe it's rallying for LGBTQ rights. Maybe it's helping the unsheltered downtown. Maybe it's women's rights. Maybe it's fighting for immigration reform and immigrant rights. Maybe it's about anti-racism. Maybe it's starting a podcast about healing from leaving the church. And maybe it's XML content on TikTok. Some of the best ways to raise your voice is voting. Your voice is your vote. Maybe your way of being an activist is a different form of activism. What I want you to know is you have the power and you have the voice to make a difference in whichever way you want. You have the power to be a lifeline for someone. Something I remember from 5Day for Women this past few months was to teach your children that having a voice is way more important than being nice. And that really stuck with me as a mom. I want to speak directly to any women of color here today. We are minorities and women in a male-run church, mostly by white men. Mujer, eres poderosa. You don't have to give in. You are powerful, Mia. Don't let anyone take that power away from you. The church hurt me in many ways, but I have the gift of the rest of my life. I have the gift of loving who I love and being a family with my family. I have the gift of truly loving who I am. I have the gift of my authenticity. I get to reclaim my power and speak out with my voice, and so do you. I'd like to end by saying the phrase that has become so powerful to me. They could not take my voice, and they will not take yours. Thank you.